الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We continue inshallah ta'ala with Kitab At-Tawheed, and we reach the chapter, the title of it, باب ما جاء في السحر. And hopefully inshallah ta'ala we can go through two chapters tonight inshallah briefly. They're both related, which again in the subject of as-sihr. And as-sihr is basically the sorcery or black magic. And how is that related to the Tawheed? Since the sihr, which is kufr, as it's going to be mentioned, it's an act of disbelief, is the type of sihr where the sahir or the sorcerer, he deals with the shayateen, with the devils. And the devils would never communicate in such a way and help those who are in the subject of a sihr unless they disbelieve in Allah and associate partners with Allah and worship the shayateen min dunillah. So, but we'll see inshallah ta'ala. So he says, باب ما جاء في السحر وقول الله تعالى ولقد علموا لمن اشتراه ما له في الآخرة من خلاق وقوله يؤمنون بالجبت والطاغوت. قال عمر الجبت السحر والطاغوت الشيطان. وقال جابر الطواغيت كهان كان ينزل عليهم الشيطان في كل حي واحد. ضمن حديث تفضل.
Allah the Most Exalted said, and indeed they knew that the buyers of it, magic, would have no share in the hereafter. Allah the Almighty said, they believe in Al-Jibit and Al-Tawheed. Umar is reported to have said Al-Jibit is magic, sorcery, while Al-Tawheed is Ash-Shaytan. Jabir is reported to have said that At-Tawheed are two soothsayers, upon whom the devil alights and every tribe has one.
So here this is the sihr. Has many different types, but linguistically the word sihr comes from something that is hidden. And that's why the time of sahur, as-sahar is the last part of the night, because it's the darkest part of the night. And we eat the meal of as-suhoor because of that. وَالْمُسْتَغْفِرِينَ بِالْأَسْحَارِ, those who seek forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the time of as-sahar, which is the last part of the night. What meant here, as we heard, is these azaim or these things that they would recite or blow or do certain acts or knots, as it's mentioned in Surah and the last two surahs of the Quran. All of these types of things with dealing with the shayateen and matters of sihr. But first the ayah, وقول الله تعالى وَلَقَدْ عَلِمُوا لَمَنِ اشْتَرَاهُ مَا لَهُ فِي الْآخِرَةِ مِنْ خَلَقٍ. This is one, the sihr is mentioned in the surah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tested the people by bringing the two angels Harut and Marut to teach people the sihr, and this was a fitna, as a trial for them. Like everything else in this life, either good or bad, everything is a test for the human beings. And they knew وَلَقَدْ عَلِمُوا لَمَنِ اشْتَرَاهُ مَا لَهُ فِي الْآخِرَةِ مِنْ خَلَقٍ. They knew indeed those who would deal with the sihr and they do the sorcery and the soothsayers and these types of things, they have no khalaq in the hereafter. And the khalaq is the share. There's no share of goodness whatsoever for them in the hereafter. That means they are among the people of the hellfire. They are not going to be among the people of Jannah. And that's why, as Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, he said, ما له في الآخرة من خلاق. Al-khalaq is nasib, and they said, ليس له deen. As Al-Hasan al-Basri rahimahullah, he said, he has no deen. The one that deals with sihr, he has no deen. He's not upon religion, because this is the type of sihr or sorcery that makes a person deals with, again, the shayateen, the jinn, the devils. And the devils would not do this unless a person would commit the shirk and the kufr and utter it, and even do even what is worse. Because sometimes people do things and they call it sihr, magic, hiding things with their hands and all these funny things. So this does not fall into this category. It's still forbidden if it's doing tricks to the people because of the word, as the ulama they say. And the same thing, which is also some kind of it which is harmful and it's not permissible, but it might not be in the level of kufr, giving some medicines or the like of this to harm people, but not with dealing with jinn. So the sihr that makes a person a kafir, a disbeliever, is the one that he deals with the jinn, the shayateen, to do the sihr or the sorcery or the black magic and so on. And he says here the ayah وقولي يؤمنون بالجبت والطاغوت. The disbelievers, they believe in al-jibt wa-taghut, and this is in Surah An-Nisa, verse number 51. And al-jibt wa-taghut, as he mentioned here, Umar radiallahu anhu, Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, he said al-jibt is al-sihr. Al-jibt is al-sihr, which is sorcery. And this is from the type of tafsir, as the ulama, they say, tafsirun bil-mithal. They give a tafsir with an example. Because al-jibt is sihr and other than sihr also. But he said al-sihr because this is tafsir of it, that this is from al-jibt. From al-jibt is the sihr or sorcery. And والطاغوت الشيطان. الطاغوت الشيطان, anything that transgress the limits. So الشيطان is also definitely a taghut. Because a taghut is anything that is being worshipped, anything that is being obeyed, anything that is being followed other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And of course the shaitan is behind all of this, so he is also a taghut. وقال جابر الطواغيت كهان. Also one of the tawaghit is the plural of a taghut. One of the tawaghit are the kuhan. And the kuhan, those who would claim that they have the knowledge of the future. And the way they get to know that is also by, and we mentioned that before, the shayateen. The devils, they ascend to try to listen to what the angels, they talk to one another with regards to the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So once if a shaitan gets something from a word of what they're saying, then he try to give it to the one that is below him because they ride on top of each other. Then this is a shuhub where the shooting stars, if it's correct to say, hits them, but they would get a word. And they would bring it down all the way to the lowest one, that he takes it to the kahin or the soothsayer or the one that deals with the jinn and add to it 100 lies. So that's why that describes why the kahin or the soothsayer might say something that happens or becomes true, but he mentioned with it 100 lies. And the people only remember what he said, which is correct, and they forget about the 100 lies. So this is definitely, no one upon the truth would lie. So that by itself is an evidence that he is an evil person. But then also describes why they would sometimes, they say something of the future is going to happen, but it's one in the midst of 100 lies or so, as the Prophet ﷺ, he said. So At-Tawaghit Kuhan, and the Kuhan used to be the leaders of their people, because if they have these types of authority, so they would control the people. They would have authority over them. And they would legislate for them. And this is what is right, and this is what is wrong, and so on. And that's why they are tawaghit. كان ينزل عليهم الشيطان في كل حي واحد. So the shaitan used to come down unto them في كل حي واحد, in every حي, in every tribe, in every district, in every place, there is one. There is a kahin, there is a sorcerer that they would seek his judgment, and he becomes their leader. And they ask him about the ghaib, the unseen. Because all human beings, they have this fascination when it comes to the ghaib. They want to know the future. They want to know matters of al-ghaib, the signs of the hour, things like this. So either they get it from the wahy, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or they get it from soothsayers and evil ones and things like this, which is an act of disbelief, as we heard. So this is what he mentioned here. And then he mentioned the hadith عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال اجتنبوا السبع الموبقات. قالوا يا رسول الله وما هن؟ قال الشرك بالله والسحر وقتل النفس التي حرم الله إلا بالحق وأكل الربا وأكل مال اليتيم والتولي يوم الزحف وقذف المحصنات الغافلات المؤمنات. حديث.
Save yourself from the 7 destroyers. The companions asked, O Messenger of Allah, what are those? He ﷺ said, to associate anything with Allah, sorcery without any just cause, killing a life Allah has forbidden, taking interest, usurping the wealth of orphans, turning back on the battlefield, and making false charge against the chaste but unmindful women.
So this hadith of Abi Hurairah, radiallahu anhu. And in the hadith, the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام, he said, اجتنبوا السبع الموبقات. الاجتناب is to stay away, not just to not to commit. As mentioned before, when it comes to the Quran and the hadith of the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام, every word has its meanings, and the meanings of it has to be applied the way it means. That's why the ilm, the knowledge of the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ is not just a simple matter that a person would open the dictionaries and find out the meanings of the words, and then he translate the hadith, and then he makes his own rulings, and doesn't work this way. So that means we have to understand what the words means and what does it apply, and how it was understood then at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. And that's why when we say the understanding of Salaf al-Salih, the early generations of Islam, is a must, is a mandatory thing, because they received the wahy and they understood it and they applied it. So the deen was not just text, it was applied perfectly, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praised them because they applied the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and we are commanded to follow their way. So ijtanibu is to stay away. Not like those who one time, when they were reminded by the ayah about al-khamr wal-maysir, the intoxications and gambling, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says فَاجْتَنِبُوهُ إنما الخمر والميسر والأنصاب والأزلام ورجس من عمل الشيطان فاجتنبوه. That al-khamr wal-maysir and so on is rijs, impurities from the ways of the shaitan, so stay away from it. Someone said the word is فاجتنبوه, doesn't mean that we don't sell it. And this is Iblis talking. Someone doesn't understand what he's saying. He just wants to justify whatever evil they're doing. Ijtinab is far more clearer and far more of a turning away from it than the specific act of buying and selling. Even though in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, it's very clear, cursing all the ones that deal with these things. But fajtanibu, it means you don't sell it, you don't buy it, you don't do anything to it, you stay away from it physically. If it's served in a place, it is not permissible for you to sit in the same place where al-khamr yudar is going around the people and you're not drinking. It is not permissible. Why? Because the ayah fajtanibu, because that's the command of Allah. That means you stay away from it. So ijtanibu, that means you stay away, not just don't commit it. You understand the meaning here? So you don't be in the same area, the same place, dealing with it, anything from close or far, just stay away from it. As-sab'a al-mubiqat, the 7 mubiqat, and mubiqat is destructive sins. Tubiq sahib, that means ruins the one that be upon these types of sins. And one of which is why this is mentioned in the chapter, is as the Prophet ﷺ, he said as-sihr. The second one in order, he said as-sihr, which is sorcery, black magic. All of these things are from the 7 destructive sins, with, as we heard, the different categories of it. So, but since the hadith is mentioned, just to mention them briefly, the first one, which is of course the worst, which is ash-shirku billah, to associate partners with Allah. This is the most destructive sins, and that's why al-mubiqat يعني al-muhlikat, sins that destroys the person. Ash-shirku billah was-sihr, and sihr is, as we heard, sorcery and black magic and the like of this. وقتل النفس التي حرم الله إلا بالحق, killing the nafs, the soul, the human being that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbade for people to kill. إلا بالحق, except with the right for it to be done according to the rules that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed, the hudud, the capital punishments, the people of authority establishing whoever kills, this is the retaliation by the people of authority, not to the individuals in fighting for the sake of Allah. These are the exceptions. But killing people, shedding blood, is one of the worst evil ever committed on the face of earth after the shirk billah. And the first thing that will be judged among the people in the Day of Judgment is ad-dima, the subject of the blood, shedding the blood. And then وَأَكْلُ الرِّبَى. See how it's mentioned with the destructive sins. أكل الربا is to, al-akla is to eat something, is to consume al-riba. And al-riba is usury, and this is one of the destructive sins, And as you see, it's like killing and everything else. And the hadith and the ayat of it is very clear. And then you can see how some people that are at ease with riba. It's as if they are at ease with killing people, at ease with intoxicating themselves, at ease with the sihr. What makes the riba different? This is one of the strange things. Of course, it's very obvious because it doesn't seem like a person is hurting anyone. And it's easy money, just simple, click something, you know, touch something, and then all of a sudden you get a riba deal. That's why it's extremely dangerous for oneself and one's religion and to the entire ummah of the Prophet ﷺ, and that requires a subject by itself. And just to make it clear, you don't have to be a alim, you don't have to be a person of knowledge to avoid riba, meaning that there's no excuse, as the ulama they say. If a person get into a riba transaction without knowing, he's still responsible because not everybody would know this by default. It requires knowledge. So either a person know it or you ask the people of knowledge. And there's no such an excuse as I didn't know. Well, you ask the people of knowledge. If you have a contract that you have to sign, then most likely that you would have something in it. So you have to ask the people of knowledge, those who you trust their knowledge and the religion, and again dealing with the different types of riba. So aklu riba, aklu mal al-yatim, to take the wealth of the orphan. And the word akl, eating, is mentioned, and what is meant is that that and more, not just eating, physically eating, but that shows how the people would be forbidden from taking the wealth of the orphans. And the orphan is the one that lost his father before the age of puberty. So if he has wealth or she has wealth, then the guardian that is in charge of the orphan, he is responsible and he has to spend with al-ma'ruf, with matters of goodness, and it has ahkam and rulings and details of that is for the person to learn or to ask the people of knowledge. Otherwise, taking the money of the orphan, this is one of the destructive sins. وَالتَّوَلِّ يَوْمَ الزَّحْفِ. التولي is to turn around, to turn away. يوم الزحف, the day of الزحف. الزحف is, the word الزحف is when someone crawling, but here it refers to when the two armies face each other in the battlefield. And once the war is erupted or they are in state of fighting, for someone to leave his position and to run away, this is a destructive sin. Right? This is while they are in the battlefield, and this is, it's a well-known thing. It's a crime, right? So if someone turn away and run, this is one of the destructive sins. التولي يوم الزحف. وقذف المحصنات الغافلات المؤمنات, and which is slandering the believing women, to accuse them with regards to their chastity, that they committed zina or something like that. This is one of the destructive sins. It has a severe punishment in this life if the rules of the Quran are applied, and a severe punishment in the hereafter. Because one of the most important things that a believing woman, righteous, chaste, the most valuable thing to her is her iffa, her tahara, her chastity. So when someone attacked that in her, that's worse to the believing woman than for her to be killed even. And these are the values that the Muslims should have and respect and acquire and exalt, right? And this is to show it's not like we don't value life, no. But for a believer, if he has a choice, right? This is like Yusuf alayhi salam when he said, قال ربي السجن أحب إلي مما يدعونني إليه. My Lord, السجن, prison, is more beloved to me than what they ask me to do, which is to commit zina والعياذ بالله, fornication. So especially for the believing women, for her to be accused, just to be accused, this is a severe crime. There's a punishable in this life and in the hereafter. So it's one of the destructive sins. And the qadf happens with a word of mouth, just a word of mouth. Someone accuse someone of such a thing. And what's mentioned, al-muhsanat, the chaste woman, that she's muhsana, that means she's married or so. Al-ghafilat, al-ghafla is heedless, which is one of the praiseworthy characteristics for the believing women, because she's not aware of how men do things or how people do things, where this free relationships outside the fold of marriage and how they plot to get one another to fall into the sin. She's heedless. She doesn't know these things. So this is praiseworthy characteristics. Why? Because she doesn't mix with men freely. She doesn't know them. She doesn't accept, of course, her maharim. So وقذف المحصنات الغافلات المؤمنات, the believing women. So even though the way that we should go through the book is just a shahid or the point of reference, but just to mention it briefly again, every part here is a subject by itself. Many nusus, text in the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam. So the point here, as-sihr is mentioned. As-sihr is mentioned, or sorcery. Then the next hadith, وعن جندب مرفوعا, he says حد الساحر ضربه بالسيف أو ضربة بالسيف. يقول رواه الترمذي وقال الصحيح أنه موقوف. وفي صحيح البخاري عن بجالة بن عبده قال كتب عمر بن الخطاب أن اقتلوا كل ساحر وساحرة. قال فقتلنا 3 سواحر. وصح عن حفصة رضي الله عنها أنها أمرت بقتل جارية سحرتها فقتلت. وكذلك صح عن جندب قال أحمد عن 3 من أصحاب النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. That's the end of the chapter. Go ahead.
Junub narrated the following Maruf hadith, at which Al-Tirmidhi reported, the punishment for the sorcerer, magician, is that he be struck with the sword, executed. In Sahih Bukhari, Bajala bin Abada narrated, Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu wrote it, execute every sorcerer or sorceress. So Bajala continued, we executed 3 sorcerers. Hafsa radiallahu anha is reported to have ordered the execution of a slave woman who was practicing magic or sorcery on her, and she was executed. Such an event has also been reported through Junub. According to Imam Ahmed, execution of sorcerers is testified by the 3 companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
So this is the worldly punishment for someone that the crime is established or with clear evidence that he committed this crime of sihr, which is again dealing with the shayateen to cause harm to the people. Because what does the sihr do? He's not someone making hand tricks. He's someone that is causing people to die, to be harmed with diseases, not to disrupting their relationships with their wives and spouses and so on. And all of that is bi'idhnillah, by the permission of Allah. Nobody can do anything. But it's like someone punching someone in the face. This is bi'idhnillah, it's by the permission of Allah. But it's harmful and it's punishable. And people would be punished as a result of that. So one of which is the punishment of a sihr. So here حد الساحر ضربة بالسيف أو ضربه بالسيف is for the people of authority. Of course, this is like part of the hudud, is to be hit with the sword. That means is killing, is to be killed by the capital punishment, by the people of authority, by the laws governing the land. And if they don't apply this, then it's not for anyone to apply, of course, this ruling as anything else when it comes to the rules, like the punishment of those who commit zina and things of that nature. وفي صحيح البخاري عن بجالة بن عبدة also that Umar رضي الله عنه, when he was the Khalifa, he made it very clear and he spread that أن يقتلوا كل ساحر وساحرة. Any sahir and sahira, their punishment is to be killed haddan. And is it the punishment is to be established even if they repented to Allah or not? There is difference of opinion there, and whatever the people of authority would decide. Why? Because is it because he became a disbeliever, or it's because of the harm that he did? So if it's because of the harm that he did, it doesn't matter if he repented. If he repented to Allah, that's between him and Allah. And if the punishment in that case will be purifying that individual from the sin. And that's why if someone, the hadd is applied on him in the proper way by the people of authority, right? The hudud is kafarat, expiates the sins. So he's not a criminal anymore, right? Even if he did not repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if it's because of his being a disbeliever, then it's to be the hadd, like the hadd of the ridda. But anyway, this is where it's mentioned. So they did that to 3 sawahir, the plural of sahir. And also Hafsa radiallahu anha, when one of her the servants, she did sihr on her, so فقتلت also. وكذلك صح عن جندب قال أحمد عن 3 من أصحاب النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. So as you see in the chapter mentioning how evil it is to deal with sihr, sorcery, black magic. And this is, again, it's something that is widespread. And people do these things. And when they do it, they have to commit kufr. They have to deal with kufr. They have to make kufr. They have to curse wal'iyadhu billah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, do evil things with the Quran, things like this. Those who would deal with the shayateen to do the sihr, to affect others. And the worldly punishment also as mentioned. المسائل, he mentioned 8 points here. تفسير of Surah Al-Baqarah, which is mentioned first, and تفسير Surah Al-Nisa, تفسير الجبت والطاغوت والفرق بينهما. الجبت is السحر and الطاغوت is الشيطان, and more. Just this is with the examples. أن الطاغوت قد يكون من الجن وقد يكون من الإنس. الطاغوت can be either jinn or human beings. So anything that is being worshipped besides Allah, anything that is being followed other than the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in sin, it's considered to be taghut. Anything that is being obeyed against the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The fifth one, معرفة السبع الموبقات المخصوصات بالنهي. To know the 7 موبقات, the 7 destructive sins. So we should know them, inshallah ta'ala, and memorize them, and to stay away from it. And the command here is to stay away. So if you go through one after the other, how to stay away. So how can a person يجتنب الشرك? Is to learn about it, is to stay away from it, all the things that leads to it. That's why there's minor and major, to stay away from the minor ones because it leads the person to the major. And the same thing with the other mubiqat or destructive sins. أن الساحر يكفر, that a sahir is a kafir. Sahir is a kafir, the one that deals with the shayateen. أنه يقتل ولا يستتاب, meaning that he is to be, the punishment is not to he repents, and then if he repents they don't punish him by killing, but rather he would be killed by the rules of the land, by the people of authority. وجود هذا, the last benefit that he mentions here, وجود هذا في المسلمين على عهد عمر فكيف بعده. This has happened at the time of Umar radiallahu anhu. So how is it then after Umar radiallahu anhu? You can see how the matter is widespread, because when people are disbelievers, then it doesn't matter, and they cause harm by the will of Allah. Of course, this is, and that's why those who are afflicted by it, and there are ways to protect oneself from it, which is important for a person to learn and to be done on a daily basis. Morning adhkar, evening adhkar, ayatul kursi before going to sleep, 7 dates ajwa from al-Medina, or even any 7 dates in the morning, and other things for means of protection. And if someone is, and also part of the means of protection is to have that strength in the heart, that as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا هُمْ بِضَارِّينَ بِهِ مِنْ أَحَدٍ إِلَّا بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. They won't harm no one except by the permission of Allah. So all of these things does not bring the fear in the hearts of the believers. You take the means, and all of these sorcerers and evildoers, they cannot do anything except by the permission of Allah. And these tahsinat, or these means of protection, they are physical and very clear protection from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sorcerers, jinns, they cannot deal with Ayatul Kursi, burns them. That's why we have to be diligently making sure that we are upon the adhkar. And if someone is afflicted by it, this is to be patient and to seek help from Allah, not to commit sins or to commit shirk as a result of that, for the person to be relieved from that, but to deal with it according to the shara, according to the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with the ruqa and the like of that. So this is the end of the chapter. Then the next chapter is short, in the same subject, or saying باب بيان شيء من أنواع السحر. Bayan, the clarification, or what's mentioned of some of the types of sihr, some of the types or kinds of sihr. He says قال أحمد حدثنا محمد بن جعفر قال حدثنا عوف عن حيان بن العلاء قال حدثنا قطن بن قبيصة عن أبيه أنه سمع النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إن العيافة والطرق والطيرة من الجبت. قال عوف العيافة زجر الطير، والطرق الخط يخط بالأرض، والجبت قال الحسن رنة الشيطان. يقول إسناد جيد. ولأبي داود والنسائي وابن حبان في صحيحه المسند منه. And then the hadith is mentioned. So go ahead, inshallah.
Verily, al-Ifad, letting birds fly to foretell events, and Tarq, drawing lines on earth to predict events, and At-Tiyara, taking sight on some object as a bad omen, are al-Jibt. Should I continue?
Yeah, the
whole thing?
okay.
Auf said, Al-Iyafa is letting the birds flight foretell events, while Al-Tarq is drawing line on earth. Hassan Basiri said, Al-Jibt is the scream of shaitan. The above hadith has been narrated through good chain of narrators and collected by Abu Dawood, Al-Nisa, and Ibn Haban.
في صحيحه في الصحيح المسند منه.
Abu Dawood reported in his book Sahih Isnan that Bin Abbas radiallahu anh narrated that Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Whoever learns a part of astrology, drawing knowledge from the stars, has learned from a part of sorcery. Those who learn more are getting much more, sin to their credit."
For the first narration, this hadith reported by Imam Ahmad rahimahullah in his Musnad, that the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام, he said, إن العيافة والطرق والطيرة من الجبت. These three things are from Al-Jibt. And Al-Jibt, as we mentioned, as we heard in the previous chapter, is what? Al-Sihr. Al-Jibt is a sihr or sorcery. So these three things are part of Al-Sihr, which is forbidden, which is, some of it can be in the categories of Al-Kufr, wal-'ayadhu billah. So what is Al-Iyafa? Al-Iyafa, as Auf, he described it, one of the narrators of the hadith, is Zajr al-Tayr. Zajr al-Tayr. And Al-Iyafa is from, it means Al-Zajr. Afa, that means when you push away something. Zajr al-Tayr is when you make the birds fly. You know, when the kids, they run, when birds are standing on the ground, and they do what? They want them to fly. So this is Zajr al-Tayr. You make them fly. You push them to fly. And the word Zajr is when you talk to someone in a very harsh way. When you scold someone, right? When you get, as if you're pushing someone, why are you doing this? So Zajr al-Tayr is what they do that. But what's the significance of Zajr al-Tayr? They would use that for weather omens. So they would let the birds fly. If it goes to the right side, this is a good omen. If it goes to the left side, it's bad omen. They would give it certain names, to it. So it's all means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not create as means. And the foolish ones, many of them, they might believe in this. So they go to one of these Kohan soothsayer, and he tell them, okay, sure, we'll see what you're about to do is good or not. So you get a bird and he flies and he says, yeah, it's no good. The foolish guy, he thinks that, this is, he's upon something. And it has nothing to, it's just hallucinations, and they take the money of the people. And it's why this is a form of shirk, because they believe something that it's not ameen, they think it's ameen, or they believe it's ameen. So that's why it's in the categories of associating partners with Allah. And this is part of a sihr. Why? Because they fool the people, or they deceive the people by these methods. And At-Tarq is, the word At-Tarq is when, At-Tariq is the path. And At-Tarq is when you hit your foot on the ground when you're walking. But here is Al-Khattu yukhattu bil-ard, is when whether it's with stones, or they do it they make lines on the ground, as a way of making sihr or sorcery. And it's mentioned in some of the hadith that some of the prophets would do it, but this is for the prophets. That means they will be aided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a way for them in the wahy from Allah to know something from the wahy. Not that they're making something up. But other than the prophets of Allah, when they do these types of things, is a way of, whether it's taken means, that is, they just fool the people, or dealing with the shayateen as a way to communicate with the shayateen, and the shayateen would inspire them with their evil spirit and so on, of whether this is a good thing or a bad thing. So it's one of the forms of the things that the soothsayers and the like of them, they do it. Al-Wada' also, like it's mentioned here, you would see that in some parts of even the Muslim world. You would find people walking with seashells, right? And they tell you, really, it's a funny, silly stuff, and kids, they think it's funny. But the same thing can fall into the issue of Santa Claus, and people think it's just funny to lie. This is not just a lie. This is believing in things that does not exist. Is an evil thing for someone to believe that way. So they would say to the person, whisper to the seashell. So you whisper to it, and that means whatever you whisper to it of wish, it's gonna happen. And all of these types of funny things where you find your wish, it all comes into this category as if this is one, some of the kinds that is associated with a sihr, even if it's not in the level of disbelief like dealing with the shayateen, but it's still forbidden. Because again, it's has no reality to it. It's just false, fake matters like that. So this is الطرق. والطيرة, الطيرة is what? To be the omens or to be pessimist. So you wake up in the morning and see an owl, right? So that means a person would say today is a bad day. Why? Because he saw an owl the first thing when he walked outside, or a cat with a certain color, or the Friday 13th, as some people believe. All of these things that has no basis to it whatsoever, that would make them change their decisions as a result of what they've seen. Or at-tira, if you remember when we talked about it, where does it come from? From at-tayr, something or like a bird or something that flies. So when someone, the Arabs in Jahiliyyah, if someone wants to travel, make a major decision, he would take a bird or a pigeon or whatever and let it fly. If it goes to the right, go for it. Your decision is good. If it goes to the left, bad things is going to happen. So you stay away. And it's all part of also the minor shirk, unless a person believes in these things that it does. But if they believe that these are means, this is minor shirk because it has no reality to it. Just people made up these types of things. And if you go on in the subject of a every culture have these foolish things, especially if ignorance prevails. And this is one of the ways that deter people away from religion, by the way. People think that religion is like this. Or the soothsayers, some of them, they look like as if they are people of righteousness or something like this, where it makes people, they think that religion is just nothing but fairy tales and these hallucinations that people do. And it's all forbidden, not just sins, but in the categories of shirk wal billah. So you can make encyclopedia of these types of things that be part of a sihr. So this is only 3 things mentioned here. Then he says here, قال الحسن رنة الشيطان. That also al-jibt, one of the meanings of it, since it's more than just a sihr, is رنة الشيطان. And al-ranna is the loud noise. And as here mentioned in Fath al-Majid, that Baqi ibn Makhlad, in his tafsir, he said that Iblis ranna arba'a rannat. Iblis has 4 rannat. The scream, the loud voice, when he was cursed, when he came down to the earth, when the Prophet ﷺ was born, when Surah Al-Fatiha was revealed, but there's no evidence of that, but just the word ranna is mentioned. So this is an ar-ranin is the very loud sound. You know what you call it with anybody took physics with the oscillations. You know when you the tongues when you do like this and then the waves, the forks, yes, right, tuning forks. The sound that is very extreme, very loud. So this is where the word come from. So and then he says وعن ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من اقتبس شعبة من النجوم فقد اقتبس شعبة من السحر زاد ما زاد رواه داود وإسناده صحيح. Here another thing which is part of one of the kinds of sihr, اقتباس شعبة من النجوم. اقتبس, الاقتباس is when a person learns something or takes something, right? And the word اقتباس it's used when someone is doing a research paper, for example, and he takes someone's word to put it in his paper, اقتبس, right? And you put a quote and you mention the source at the end. So it comes into the meaning of learning. So when اقتبس شعبة, الشعبة is a group or a type or a part, like شعب الإيمان, parts of الإيمان. So whoever learn part of اقتبس شعبة من النجوم. شعبة, a part of the knowledge of the stars. So not all knowledge of the stars is forbidden. So شعبة من النجوم, which is the forbidden one, فقد اقتبس شعبة من السحر. That means he had learned a part of a sihr which is forbidden to learn it. It's haram to learn sorcery. زاد ما زاد, whoever do more, then he would get more of the evil. So it means that not all the knowledge of the stars is forbidden. That's why the ulama, they mention the knowledge of the stars is of two types. There's ilm al-tasir, as they call it. When a person is traveling and want to know the north from south, this is the name of, they give a name of that star and that star. Just, astrology where you get to know the places of the stars and Milky Way and all of these types of things. That's not haram. It's just you're talking about things that are up there. What's haram is, which has no reality to it, is when people think that this is they call it ilm al-ta'thir, I'm not sure in English what they call it, where they relate or they link the stars with the actions and things happens on the earth.
Astrology.
This is the astrology. So astronomy, no. Astronomy is the good one. Astronomy is the good one. Astrology is the bad one, right? So when they see a star and they say evil things going to happen on the earth, or this star does not show unless there's things are evil coming, or something major happen on the face of earth, and this is where it's haram. Or rain, or calamities, or catastrophes, things of that nature. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not make the stars, did not create the stars to be means for anything that happens in the life of the people. It has nothing to do with the life of the people. So those who learn these types of evil sciences, which is not a science that has an effect, that they committed an act of sihr. As the Prophet ﷺ, he said, فَقَدْ اقْتَبَسَ شُعْبَةً مِنَ السِّحْرِ. So learning, just to learn it, it's haram. So not just to act upon it, but also to learn it. And there are books that would teach this. People go to these people, even if it's for a person just want to play or to joke or things like that. All of that is forbidden. It's haram. It's haram to learn it. It's haram to deal with it. And remember, ijtanibu, to stay away. Even if you have in a newspaper or on a website or whatever there is, and they talk about something like this, your fortune teller, or if you're born in, what do you call it, abraj, horoscope, all of that is forbidden to read. And it's forbidden to read as a way that you're just laughing and you want to read it. You don't believe it. You don't think it's true. Just a bunch of guys are sitting together. So let's see what your horoscope says today. And you laugh about it, and it's haram to do that. Even if you don't believe in it, even if you know that it doesn't make sense. Because of the words of the hadith and the ayat are very clear in this. And the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, whoever goes to a kahin or a soothsayer, arraf, someone that claims that he knows the future, if he believes him, فَقَدْ كَفَرَ بِمَا أُنزِلَ عَلَى مُحَمَّدٍ. He disbelieved in what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. And if he does not believe him, in some of the narrations that no salah will be accepted from that person for 40 days or so. أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. The point here is, it's haram, whether a person believes in it or not, which gives us also the greater sense of things, where if something is haram, you don't be at ease with it or to come close to it. If people are innovations upon innovations and bid'ah and dalal, you don't listen to them, even if you know their ways, right? And that's, again, it's only for very specific individuals if there's benefit to refute or to answer back or to invite them or whatever there is. But the normal people, the masses, the students of knowledge, whatever there is to stay away from listening to al-batil, to falsehood. Staying away from learning falsehood. Because whoever claimed that he is good and his heart is strong, he's praising himself. And you never know what can affect the person versus not affect him. So, and to stay away from the fitan. And as we heard that in many times. So this is, again, going back to part or one kinds of the sihr is to learn about the astrology or ilm al-nujum, the nujum that deals with the affairs and the lives of the people. He says, وَلِلنَّسَائِي مِنْ حَدِيثِ أَبِي هُرَيْرَةَ مَنْ عَقَدَ عُقْدَةً ثُمَّ نَفَثَ فِيهَا فَقَدْ سَحَرَ وَمَنْ سَحَرَ فَقَدْ أَشْرَكَ وَمَنْ تَعَلَّقَ شَيْئًا وُكِلَ إِلَيْهِ. See this narration of the Nasa'i?
Whoever tied a knot and blew on it has committed sorcery, and whoever committed sorcery has committed shirk. Whoever wears an amulet or a talisman will be subjected to its control.
So this is one of the ways of the Sahara, how the sorcerers, they do things, which is mentioned in Surah Al-Falaq. The hadith, مَنْ عَقَدَ عُقْدَةً, whoever makes a knot. Al-uqda is the knot, with a thread, with anything. ثُمَّ نَفَثَ فِيهَا, then he blew in it. They blow in it from their evil spirit. and the ways that they deal with the shayateen. But whoever even does this just like that and saying evil things when they're spitting on it in this nut with mentioning names of people and things like this, فقد سحر. He committed the act of sihr. Whether it has an effect or not, he committed this act of sihr. ومن سحر فقد أشرك. And whoever makes sihr, he had committed shirk, associating partners with Allah. And ومن تعلق شيئا وكل إليه. And whoever his heart is attached to something, he will be led to rely upon it. And that means what? That means it's not going to do any good for him, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the owner of all things. So the importance of having the heart to be attached and to rely upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. Relying with one's heart, with the heart, upon anyone other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then he will be led to depend on whatever he depends on, which means it would ruin him, it would not benefit him whatsoever. So ومن تعلق شيئا وكل إليه. Whoever relies upon evil ones, rely upon sorcery, relies upon these things, shayateen, then he will be led to be in that path which is not going to do any good to him whatsoever. So, and this is how the sihr also, when he deals with the shayateen, he becomes an evil spirit. His spirit becomes contaminated. That's why their nafth to the uqad, to the knots, becomes evil in itself, and all by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which also shows that the believers, when you recite the Quran before you go to sleep and you spit lightly, this is the goodness of what the Quran that you recite has an effect by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So عن ابن مسعود رضي الله عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال ألا هل أنبئكم ما العض هي النميمة القالة بين الناس. رواه مسلم. ولهما عن ابن عمر رضي الله عنهما أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إن من البيان لسحرا. That's the end of the chapter. Go ahead, inshallah.
Shall I not tell you what Al-Ad is? It is conveying false rumors for the purpose of causing disputes between people. Osayl collectors reported Ibn Umar that Allah's Messenger Muhammad said, some eloquence can be so beautiful that it constitutes sorcery.
So this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, he says to the people, ألا هل أنبئكم ما العض. The word al-'adh comes into the meaning of falsehood or something that is not correct, al-baht or something like this. So, but he ﷺ started with, which is one of the ways of the Prophet ﷺ teaching the Sahaba, asking them, do you know what that means? Do you know what is it? So then the Prophet ﷺ, he said to them, هي النميمة. هي النميمة, which is slandering. القالة بين الناس. هي النميمة القالة بين الناس. The first النميمة is when someone takes the words of someone to someone else to bring enmity between both. This is how النميمة is, and this is how it causes. First of all, it's evil, it's falsehood. It causes so much harm as a result of this, and as if this is a way of how the sihr does. Why sihr is forbidden? Because it brings all kinds of harm to the people. So the same thing the namima does, what the sihr or the like of the sihr, or sometimes even worse. Sometimes tribes will fight with each other, countries or whatever, or human beings, people that are praying together in the masjid, and someone does namima. He goes to one, he said about you that you're such a bad person. He goes to the other one. And for those who think that it doesn't happen, why it doesn't happen? There's evil people. Some people, they might do these types of things. So it doesn't matter whether the person is good or not. Just the fact that someone would naql al-kalam. He said, she said, they said, and then you find in your heart something grudges against the one that said this or said that. This is what an-namima is all about. It does not require an evil intention. So, and this is an-namima al-qala bayna nas, which people basically talking, saying the words of someone to someone else, and it causes corruption or boycotting one another or all kinds of evil as a result of that. So why the Prophet ﷺ called that al-'adh? Because it's always buhtan, it's always lies, falsehood, and evil outcome as a result of that. And one of the major things that causes people to be punished in their graves is a namima. Then he ends the chapter. ولهما عن ابن عمر رضي الله عنهما أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إن من البيان لسحرا. Indeed, from al-bayan. Al-bayan is the speech of the person that he's trying to explain what he wants to articulate, for example. So it's basically refers to the talk. When someone gives a speech, some of it is sihr, some of it is sihr means magic. The meaning of this is because he brings this to give the meaning of linguistically what a sihr means, and also to be warned against this. So al-bayan here is the objective of the eloquency of speech. You know, we have sciences in the Arabic language, البلاغة والبيان many things, والمعاني والبديع, so many different sciences linguistically to perfect the way that a person would speak or write. So, but the objective of it is to be as clear as you can of what you want to say in the most perfect way, in the most precise way, in choosing the best words in the best context and all kinds of things. So if someone is able to articulate himself, he gives a speech, what happens to the people? It's like sihr, it's like magic, as if he did sihr on them. They all follow what he says, and they all do whatever he tells them to do, which can be a very dangerous thing or can be a good thing. So, which also means not every good speech is a good speech, right? Because inna min al-bayani la sihra. Some of it is like it deceives the people. So how can a person save himself from this? The speech has to be based on the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. When people start talking about opinions, right, and where they're coming from and their opinions here and there, people would say, yeah, you're right. Why? Because of the lack of knowledge, because of the lack of many things. And the wahy from Allah, the revelation from Allah is based on the unseen. And the unseen, no one can know what is it. So if something that is coming, say for example, if we're sitting here and something is coming after an hour, that we have no idea what is it. So or something supposed to be done now to protect us from whatever is coming. And if we do it, it won't come. This is all matter of unseen. This is what the wahy does. But if you have someone that uses his own reason, he doesn't see whatever is coming is coming. So he would say to people, relax, there's nothing, this and that, no, we need to do this, while they're not aware of what's the reality that is they're facing them. So again, inna min al-bayani la sihra. So as he mentioned here, some of the quotes that the man can be upon the truth, or the truth, he's not upon the truth. But what happens? Someone is upon falsehood, but he is alhan bil hujaj min sahib al haq. Two people are, as the Prophet ﷺ, he said that also when people come in a dispute, you come in front of the judge. One is right and one is wrong. But the one that is wrong, he's more eloquent in his speech. He get a good lawyer, for example, right? And a good lawyer, it doesn't matter that he has his case that he's upon the truth, but he's able to bring evidences or ways of speech that would make people be convinced. So as he says, فَيَسْحَرُ الْقَوْمِ بِبَيَانِ فَهَذَا بِالْحَقِّ. He deceives the people, so he turns away from the truth, and he makes people turn away from the truth. So, but if it's upon the truth, mashallah, this is a beautiful thing. If someone is saying something to be al-haq, to be upon the truth, and his way of explaining it is in a beautiful way, mashallah, this is one of the delights of this life. And that's why when a person learns the ilm, learns the knowledge, and be very strong upon it, and explain the haqq to the people according to the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, this is the real beauty of this life. Unlike those who would deceive the people and lead them to the hellfire, wal-'iyadhu billah. So it has the same effect as the sihr if a person is able to articulate himself in the right way. And there are many hadith that talks about this subject. المسائل أن العيافة والطرق والطيرة من الجبت, as mentioned, all of that is from sorcery. تفسير العيافة والطرق, what's العيافة, what's الطرق, the birds and the stones and the lines on the ground. The signs of the stars, that it's part of the sihr, if it's as we heard, people believe that has an effect in the lives of the people. Al-aqd ma'al nafth, to make a knot and to blow, this is part of the sorcery. And the namima min dhalik, slandering is like from the same kinds because it has the same effect. And that also from al-fasaha, some of the fasaha, some of the eloquency in speech is a kind of sihr. Why? Because of the effect of it. right? And this is also, again, if we reflect upon this, it's so clear in many other people. People in general, they would consider the person is upon the haq if he has the ability to speak well, right? And the speech is such an important thing, not to belittle it, but to make sure that the content of it is nothing but the truth and the haq. Then you adorn it with the way that you speak, with your eloquency in speech and things like this. Allah musta'an. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from what is evil and to make us among those who are upon the haq and steadfast upon the haq. Stop here, inshallah. The next chapter is about Al-Kohan, the soothsayers, the individuals, but we'll do that inshallah ta'ala next time. And then, جزاكم الله خيرا. سبحانك اللهم ربنا بحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.